Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to Apparitions, poem 6 of the 31 of Goodbye My Fancy. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, our playlist. Our hope is that you were already introduced to our entry comments for Goodbye My Fancy, and then we just finished with 71st Year. Now, of course, Apparitions as a term is one that we've already heard in Leaves of Grass. Our Nortons will tell us about this one, that the Feinberg manuscript of Goodbye My Fancy shows these 3 lines as a holograph scrap pasted up for a third stanza of the poem, Leaves of Grass, purport. And it was first published in Goodbye My Fancy of 1891. I find this a very interesting little poem because there's a lot of Plato going on here, I believe. And I think Whitman learned a lot from his study of Plato about what is real versus what is not real. Go back to our studies of the Republic, and especially books 6 and 7. Apparitions, you'll remember, of the terrible doubt of appearances, as well as Boston Ballad, for 2 of those times when that which appears to be real but actually is not real is there in front of us. Notice he'll begin with the word vague, which takes us back to the very beginning of Leaves of Grass in Cabin Ships at Sea. A vague mist, you'll remember mist from Song Myself 44, hanging round half the pages. And all of a sudden it hits us, oh, okay, so leaves, pages, got it. So in other words, now he's talking specifically about his poems, and then notice the colon, and then the parenthetics. Sometimes, how strange. Watch how he uses the word strange in the last 2 annex clusters. It's fascinating. How strange and clear to the soul. Which begs the question, I mean, there's your paradox. How can it be strange and clear at the same time? It seems like they would be, in fact, exclusive to each other. That all these solid things, now we're back, of course, to Plato's theory of the forms, are indeed but apparitions, concepts, non-realities. And then in parenthetics is the way this ends. Of course, he finishes with his Trinity. Well, I think his argument here at 2a is obvious, that the metaphysical for him is as important, maybe even a little more important, than the physical itself. At 2b, I love that he uses I love that he uses this idea of hanging round. Did you see that in the first line? A vague mist hanging round. But you notice that he uses that, the way he spells around, so he drops that first letter. Do you see this? So it has a certain kind of interesting rhythm to it. Again, listen to it. A vague mist hanging round half the pages. It's a colloquial sounding as well. And of course, hanging round or hanging out is something, you guys are familiar with that phrase and with that term. In other words, it's as if I kind of glance at my book of poems and I go, oh yeah, more than the words are the thoughts. More than the thoughts are the experiences themselves. Right. At 3a, again, we mentioned in Plato's Republic 6 and 7, and the cave allegory especially, and the idea that you can have a beautiful person, but then you can have this concept called beauty, which we never actually touch, see, get to, and yet we're going to believe that it somehow is there. That is to say, you have to have a mind to argue there is no mind, right? Finally, at 3b, what are your thoughts about this dichotomy or this comparison between the physical and the metaphysical? And do you agree with Whitman here that maybe the stuff that we're going to worry the most about 5 seconds before we flatline and have to go to the van and no longer get to swing at the park won't be the physical stuff of our life, but the metaphysical stuff of our life? It might even be something having to do with the reading of what? Maybe Leaves of Grass. Thank you.